So my wife and I just finished dinner, and afterwards, which is why we were late. It took us a little bit longer to finish dinner, and but afterwards we watched. I guess Jimmy Fallon did like an after show last night after the Super Bowl, or it was like something around the Super Bowl,
Oh
and he
yeah,
had.
the lip sync. Did you watch the lip sync?
That's what we were watching.
Yeah, with comedian Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell.
Those guys are so funny, man. I I was cracking up. We were cracking up for like 10 minutes. They just, I love I love Jimmy Fallon, first of all. So when I was watching him do that, and Will Ferrell's just, I was saying about Will Ferrell, just like his existence is funny.
Yeah,
He doesn't really have to do anything to be funny. It's
yeah,
just
he's just kind of the chubby funny guy.
exactly,
Kind of like I was Saturday night at Rooster Palooza.
exactly. We are a duo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just cracking up, which is why we were late. I ate and then had to sit and spend 20 minutes of quality time before spending an hour recording a podcast.
Man, my favorite time from last night of anything was the Sharks.
Oh God, it was so good.
God, the Sharks. I want to find out how Katy Perry and her team were able to get the Marlins home run sculpture to life.
Everything about it, right?
It was the Marlins home run sculpture, and it was glorious. Those Sharks with the legs and the one on the left that can't dance, I loved it.
Oh, I actually legitimately enjoyed that entire performance.
Uh,
I was cracking up the entire time.
yeah, it was spectacular, and I didn't even know Lenny Kravitz existed outside of Cinna from Hunger Games.
There were so many things in my timeline talking about why is Senna playing guitar, and I laughed
But
a lot.
hey, Katy Perry looked like the girl on fire as she was riding the Super Zord from Power Rangers.
Man, you just blew my mind. Or, depending on the more you know star she was riding at the end there for a while.
God, that was the best.
Yeah, that
I
was.
Events like that are made for Twitter.
Yeah, I tweeted the same thing. I was like, this is why Twitter exists.
It was just perfect. It was just
Yeah.
everything I wanted. The nationwide ad,
Yeah.
oh, and the heroin ad, oh,
That was the most astonishing thing. I guess the
a local
nationwide
ad, yeah.
one has to win because it isn't national.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that that
Yeah,
ad was not good.
and that's how you OD on heroin.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Just amazing. So, um,
But on the best note about the night, yes, it was a very enjoyable game in general, and the Super Bowl halftime show was good. But now football's over.
football is over for,
So
you know, I don't even know. When does it start again? September?
August, I think, September. August is when. Yeah, September.
Yeah, it's over for a long time, and that means baseball is so close.
It's so close you can almost kind of touch it.
Oh, I can't wait to touch it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
uh, so speaking of baseballs and touching it, let's talk about Casey Jansen, shall we?
Yes, Casey Jansen, who has two S's in his last name.
Did you see? I loved James O'Hara's tweet today. Did anybody see that?
Did you seriously just ask like me if anyone saw that?
Yes.
I don't think I saw it, but let
He
me
said-
ask all the ghosts in my room.
He's awkward. He was like, Casey Jansen, where the second S stands for strikeouts.
Nice.
Loved it.
I hope it does.
Me too. And that's exactly what Dave Nichols retweeted. I hope so.
Nice. Well played,
Yeah.
Idaho Nichols.
Sad face.
Yeah. So the Nationals, lot of good pitching already on the roster, and they've just added who I believe is going to be Tyler Clippard's pseudo replacement is in the eighth inning role for a whopping total of $5 million.
Yeah, the coolest thing about that is, and it's been said all over the place, so I'm not taking credit for it because I'm just kind of regurgitating information. But basically, the Nationals got Casey Jansen and Yunel Escobar, price-wise, annual value-wise, for $10 million, and this season Tyler Clippard would have cost $9 million.
Yep.
So they've got a middle infielder and a late inning reliever for the price of a late inning reliever.
Now, obviously, statistically, Casey Janssen is not Tyler Clippard.
No. Oh, I am not saying that.
No, he's not. But, for the bang for the buck, for the value, getting those a middle infielder and a late inning reliever for roughly the same cost for a pitcher who's, I'm not saying his skills are in decline, but they will be in decline at some point.
Right.
So, but to get a major league quality reliever who has quality closing experience for $5 million, I mean, the cost of one WAR is pushing $7 million right now.
Right.
So we're talking replacement level pricing for an eighth inning guy.
Right.
And then not only that, say he comes out and has an absolutely stellar season, there's a mutual option for $7 million.
Right, which would be, good for both teams in that situation.
It would be.
Both parties, I should say.
Both parties, yes, both parties. But, I mean, that's a deal. Even if he has a mediocre year and he ends up being nothing better than, a seventh inning guy or, a mop-up guy, $7 million for a major league quality reliever is still a pretty darn good deal. I mean, how much did Zach Duke get?
Yeah, 5 years, $15 million.
3 years?
I'm sorry, 3 years, $15 million.
I mean,
$5 million a year.
That's the same cost.
Yeah, but with Zach Duke, you're in the hole for 2 more entire seasons, and that's kind of the point. We've talked about this before. I know we've said it a ton on the podcast, and there's really no such thing as a bad 1-year deal.
No.
If you sign a 1-year deal and it's not going well 2 months in, you release the player.
Right.
And you eat, if it's $5 million, you eat $3 million, and you say have a nice day, and you move on.
Right.
That it's not, even if it ends up being a 1-year $10 million deal, it's easy to eat that money when you're not on the hook for multiple seasons.
Exactly. It's the same as we talked about last podcast with Dan Ugla. There's no such thing as a bad spring training invitee either.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You're literally losing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a low risk, medium, high reward kind of deal. Let's talk a little bit about Casey Janssen as a pitcher.
Yeah.
He's a pretty solid strikeout guy. Doesn't walk a ton of batters. Had an absolutely terrible 2014.
Right.
He, in the second half of the season, he had a 6.26 ERA.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Which is terrible. Also, not his fault.
Right.
Injuries are a thing. They happen. Most of the time with a pitcher, you'll see, some shoulder fatigue, a dead arm, something like that. He got food poisoning.
Yeah.
He had a case of food poisoning where one day he lost 8 pounds.
That's staggering.
That's some violent shit right there.
Yes.
Like that's a pun I just did. Yeah, that's just violent.
Yeah.
And spent the next 2 days on IVs.
Right.
Trying to, not die.
Right.
And then he went and pitched 5 of the next 8 days.
That's a bad call.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea.
He never recovered.
Right.
Ever. Didn't have a chance. I mean, I've had food poisoning before several times, and man, it takes a long time to recover and get any strength back, let alone try and pitch to major league pitchers.
Right, yeah.
So,
when you're talking about having a couple of days off and then you go back into it in a physically demanding job, that could explain a lot of that. You never have the chance to recover.
Literally pitched 5 out of the next 8 days.
Right.
For any reliever, that is a ton.
let alone when you're coming off of illness, any
Yeah.
injury, illness, anything.
I mean, I would love to see how many times Nationals relievers pitched that frequently, stretches where they pitched 5 out of 8,
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to picture in 2014, really. Tyler Clippard probably did because he's Tyler Clippard
Right.
at some point, but I can't. It would be hard to imagine any other Nationals reliever doing that last season.
Oh, absolutely. And so he never was able to recover, had an absolutely terrible second half, which is one of the reasons why the Nationals were able to get him on the cheap.
Right.
And I guarantee you, I can't speak from knowledge, but I guarantee you there were teams offering Casey Janssen probably more money than the Nationals end up offering. But
Oh, yeah, it would be hard to imagine Casey Janssen only getting his best offer this offseason being 1 year, $5 million.
yeah, with a
I mean,
mutual
that's pretty,
option.
right, with a mutual option, which, mutual options are for the most part kind of seen as like it's a thing we'll do, but it gets, I would imagine, I would like to see the stats on how often those get picked up because they don't really ever get picked up.
Right.
So, because
Um,
either the player has a really bad year and the team doesn't want to pick it up, or the player has a really great year and he decides that he wants to, become a free agent. So,
Right. And what it does for him is it gives him a wonderful stage in this Nationals team that everyone is projecting as World Series favorites, all that. So it gives him a platform to perform. And if he has a great year, he can leverage that into maybe a 2-year, $15 million, 2-year, maybe even 18, 20, depending on
right,
how well it goes. But it also puts him in a position, the former closer. You've got not young closer, but a closer that has struggled a couple times in the postseason in his 2 experiences.
right,
Love him as much as we do, and his 20 straight scoreless innings leading into the postseason. Big
right.
big blown save in this past against the Giants.
Game,
Big blown save in 2012.
right.
Casey Janssen would probably be the first one to step into that role if, God forbid, an injury or, poor performance. You would think that would be another reason why he wanted to come to DC. He's essentially second in line for closing, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to imagine, right? I mean, it's kind of like the insurance policy that the Lerners wanted in 2013, but on the cheap.
Right.
They got Rafael Soriano on a 2-year deal in 2013, and that didn't turn out as well as was hoped. And then this is kind of like all right, well, maybe we don't need that, but we would like some sort of option. And Casey Janssen became that option. I mean, it's an interesting call. And, speaking of the numbers, you're right. I mean, 2014 year for him because of that illness the statistics are bad. I mean, they're really, really bad.
It's very, very ugly.
Yeah. But you look at the 3 previous seasons.
Oh, I've got it, Joe. I've got it.
Yeah, you look at the 3 previous seasons, and his ERA is 2.26 in 2011, 2.54 in 2012, 2.56 in 2013, with, I mean, extremely low FIPs, wins above replacement above 1 both years, strikeouts per 9, 8.5 plus 9.5 in 2012.
Yep.
So it's not like he is far removed from that. You look at a streak of success like that for 3 years in a row, and then you have an injury illness situation in 2014, and that year is the outlier. You have to imagine that when the condition that caused the outlier is repaired, then things are going to turn out all right for him. He's not young, but he's not old. He's 33. I mean, it's not like we're talking about a guy that's like a relief pitcher that's turning 36 this year or something.
Yeah. In the 2 years prior, in 2012, 2013, combined 2.55 ERA, 0.92 WHIP.
Yeah.
9.1 strikeouts per 9, and a 164 ERA plus,
Yeah, that's incredible.
which is a great number. So the Nationals are taking a $5 million chance that 2014 was an anomaly, and that Casey Jansen's gonna, maybe not have such good numbers. Maybe the strikeouts per nine goes down a strikeout. Maybe the whip ticks up slightly, but you're also looking at a player that's going from the AL East to the NL East.
Yeah, and the AL East last year certainly wasn't what it has been previously, but it is still an American League team, and you're still pitching to 9 hitters rather than, the free spot. Although relievers don't really pitch to pitchers all that often, but
No.
it's still a difference. The American League is a more offensive driven league.
Yes.
So anytime you could get into a National League park, you got to figure it's going to favor a pitcher.
Yeah. So
unless
that's
you're playing in Cincinnati.
So that's another shrewd move by Rizzo and company. I think it shores up the bullpen a little bit, and honestly, I think right now the Nationals bullpen situation is probably set, barring injury.
Yeah. So you said earlier that with Jansen, you think that he'll predominantly be the eighth inning guy, take Tyler Clippard's spot.
Yeah, that's what I envision. That's what I think the move is designed to do.
Do you think that's what the move should do? Do you see someone else in that role that you would rather see in that position, or do you think that Jansen's probably the right guy considering experience, age, etc.?
I think he will start the season in that eighth inning spot, but I don't think he will end the season in that eighth inning spot.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, whether it be, trade, drop, injury, performance. I don't think he'll end there in the eighth spot. I think he'll end as, a reliever.
Yeah, just a regular.
Just a reliever. But I think he is going to start the season in that role just because of veteran status. He's been around a while, and Matt Williams is always big on veterans. He trusts his veterans. He gives them big roles, despite sometimes to spite other things.
Right.
He's big. He's a former player. He's big on leadership and veteran. He's you've been there. You've been in many clubhouses.
Right.
So.
And sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it ends up not being the best thing. But I do think that from last season, Matt Williams has learned a lot on about how and when is the right time to stick with a guy.
Right.
I think that is going to play out this year, and I don't think it's going to play out anywhere more significantly than in the bullpen.
Yeah, I think your eighth inning guy in waiting is Aaron Barrett.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I think the one thing that that kind of lets that up in the air is Aaron Barrett. Before he figured it out, the reason he didn't, he had the Rick Ankiel disease where he couldn't throw a strike. He was kind of in his own head. He got a bit of the yips.
The yips.
And I think that that's the one thing. Seeing how he has recovered from the playoff kind of wild pitches horribleness that happened there in San Francisco. So, assuming everything is all right there and Barrett's fine, I have no reason to believe he's not going to be fine. Most times it's not a single inning that ends up killing a guy in terms of confidence and stuff like that. It's more than that. And I think I have no reason to believe that Aaron Barrett won't be totally fine.
Yeah, definitely.
So you said you think that the bullpen is set. So you have 7 guys, I assume, on a list somewhere?
I do indeed have 7 guys on the list. You got Storen.
Yep.
Got Storen. You got Jansen. You got
Yep.
Craig Stammen. You got Aaron Barrett. You got Matt Thornton, Jerry Blevins, and of course your 6th starter, Tanner Roark.
Yeah. So here's my thing. And I mean, I don't disagree. That's obviously going to be who the 7 are. I would personally, and I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, but if you're saying that you want Tanner Roark to be your sixth starter, who ends up starting games when inevitably an injury happens, because it's Major League Baseball and starting pitchers get hurt. It's the way it works. The Nationals 2012 season where that didn't happen was ridiculous. The difference is, if Tanner Roark is going to be relieving and you're going to expect him to jump into that role, I think he should not be relieving. I think he should be starting, and I think he should be starting in AAA. And I think Tanner Roark should start in AAA in 2015, and I think Blake Treinen should be in the bullpen for the Nationals.
See, I like that very much, but Roark does have.
No, I'm sorry, and to add on to that point, I also think that Blake Treinen should be pitching the 8th inning. So, boom.
Nice. That's bold. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, let's be clear. Not going to happen.
No, definitely not.
But it should, is in my opinion.
Nice. Yeah, I think if Roark hadn't already had some relieving experience just last season,
right?
I would agree with you.
Yeah, each of the last 2 years, his first year, when he was up, he had relieving experience too. So.
Right. I think if that weren't the case, definitely. And once again, Matt Williams is a loyal guy.
Oh, sure.
So I don't think you can look Tanner Roark in the eye and say, sorry, we signed Max Scherzer.
Yeah,
so
right.
you're going to Syracuse.
Right.
Enjoy the snow into June.
So true.
I don't think that's going to happen, especially if he hadn't already proven himself an effective reliever, then yeah, that would make a little bit more sense. But he's already shown that he can be that swing man, be a quality long reliever, something that, as much as we love him, Ross Detweiler never was a reliever. He never got it. It never clicked. It just didn't work. And I don't know if it was because
he didn't want to be and he didn't think he should be.
Yeah, I don't know if it was he just didn't commit to it or it's just not the kind of pitcher he is, but it just didn't work for him. And Tanner Roark is a different guy, and he will buy into whatever it takes. I'm not saying Detweiler wasn't a good clubhouse guy or didn't want to help the team, but it was pretty clear that his future was definitely not in the Washington Nationals organization.
Oh yeah, and to be clear, I say again, I'm saying this from above. I don't know that I could go to Tanner Roark after 2014 and be like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?"
Yeah,
you're gonna get on a bus to Syracuse at the end of March. Sorry, but we'll see you in May. I don't know that I could do that. I'm saying this from a bubble, saying, hey, you have two risks there. Number one is Tanner Roark ends up. The reason I'm saying he should be in AAA is because I want him pitching 6 innings every 5 days.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, not that he can't relieve. It's just if he's going to start at some point, you want him to stay stretched out as a starter playing in real baseball games, not simulated baseball games. And that's my argument there. But, on the flip side, you could also look at it the other way and say, if you take a guy who had a 2.85 earned run average in 2014 and was one of the better pitchers on the team that was already ridiculous, and say, I know it was great, but we're still going to send you to Syracuse, what that could do to a guy's confidence could be just as damaging as having a guy relieve that then ends up needing to start. So there you could look at it both ways.
Oh, absolutely. And the good thing about it is whether it's a spot start or whether there's an injury situation, a DL situation in that starting super rotation, if it's a spot start, you've got Tanner Roark can go 3-4 innings, if he's not stretched out. Craig Stammen can go 3-4 innings. So you've got a piggyback situation right there that will easily cover that you can keep Tanner Roark up and not really have to worry about, I need to get 6 innings out of a starter when you've got some quality long relievers already ready to go.
Yeah, and you have multiple long relievers but also guys that can pitch short situations. Like you said, if a guy ends up going on the disabled list and Tanner Roark goes into the rotation, you bring up Blake Treinen, and then he becomes your long reliever. Or you have Craig Stammen do the long relief and Blake Treinen pitches late innings. You have a ton of options.
Right. So I think that's pretty set for bullpen, like I said, barring
Yeah, I agree.
injury. I think that's pretty much what you're looking at, and I think. Do you think Trinan's going to be the first one up if there's an injury situation?
It'll be interesting. I think it's going to depend on the role and how it ends up. I think that's kind of one of the things I'm going to look at during spring training to see what ends up happening. I think he's going to be really high on that list. I also think that Taylor Jordan will be really high on that list.
I think Xavier Cedeno is going to be high on that list as well.
That poor bastard.
Yeah.
God, he just is like, he better have frequent flyer miles because that trip from Syracuse to DC or Syracuse, I think he did Syracuse to Oakland last year at one point, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But when he gets called up, he gets a major league paycheck for a while, and that doesn't suck for him. So I guess.
And per diem.
Yeah, and per diem. Yeah, so I guess I can't feel too bad for him, but it's still it's not the role you want to be in if you're a Major League Baseball player.
Right, and so.
But you're right, Cedeno's a good pick.
Yeah, with the Jansen move, this pushes probably Trinan out, which is okay because he's a young guy and he can keep honing his craft before and he can improve without being up at the major league level and getting burned big time.
Well, yeah, and Blake Trinan's kind of in this weird spot, right, where if he has a chance to start a little bit, maybe that turns out well for him and he gets some more experience starting. I'm of the belief that I don't think he's going to be a career starter. I think he's going to be a really good late inning guy. I just think his stuff plays late inning guy much better than it does as a starter, because he could just throw really hard. And if you have a couple of pitches you could throw really hard, you could do well in late innings because he throws them for strikes.
I tend to agree.
But it might benefit Trinan in the long run to give him a chance to get stretched out and see if he can make the starting thing a thing, if he can figure out another pitch or make one of his secondary pitches a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, that's pretty much the only real news we've had since we actually potted last week.
I know you people are going to get all spoiled and stuff.
Hashtag you people.
Hashtag you people. But last week on the Nats blog, we did a couple of pieces, 5 to be exact, about the 5 Nationals starting pitchers now that Max Scherzer is part of the rotation, and we all kind of took a guy and said, let's try and make an argument for our guy being the best pitcher in the Nationals rotation. Will took 2 because he's Will. Yeah. But so we each took a pitcher and we made our best argument for him. So everybody kind of volunteered for their person. Zach volunteered for Gio Gonzalez because he's a damn champion. So he had followed Gio a lot and liked him and was like, I'm just gonna make an argument because I think it'll be fun to try. So, we want to talk about that a little bit. So when we did that, it was kind of like, let's see who made the best argument. So the two of us are gonna flesh out kind of who. First, we're gonna talk about who we think who we think the best pitcher actually is, with the caveats of they're all really good.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about who actually won the argument of who won the argument.
Who was the most compelling?
Who was the most compelling? Who made the best argument for his or her starting pitcher?
There you go.
So
why don't you lead off, Mr. Everyone knows who you're gonna pick?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna pick Steven Strasburg.
What? Oh my gosh.
So
that is entirely new information.
So when I went into writing this, it was Will Yoder's idea, and Will was like, I think we should do this, and we were like, it's a great idea. He's like, I want Max Scherzer. I was like, okay. So I was like, well, I'm going to take. So I obviously volunteered to take Steven Strasburg. I took Steven Strasburg thinking it was going to be a really difficult case to make that he was better than a Cy Young Award winner who throws a gajillion innings and throws really hard and is one of the few guys with a strikeout rate higher than Strasburg's and all of that stuff. And by the end of research and writing and things, I actually convinced myself that the guy that I picked was better. So I hopefully did that for some other people, because if I wrote well enough to persuade myself, maybe I wrote well enough to persuade a couple of other people as well.
Well, there you go.
But really, when you look at Strasburg's numbers, and my whole premise was you can't take entire careers and um, compare careers to careers when some guys have been in the league for many years longer than Strasburg. So my whole thing was, Strasburg is the youngest guy who's been in the league the least amount of time. So let's start when he got in the league and talk about who is the best. And you could say that that's skewing the sample, but at the same time, any of the other guys, if you look at their numbers before Strasburg got into the league, they were not very good yet. So they were just not. None of them had hit their stride. Doug Fister was good, but was not yet Doug Fister. Max Scherzer was okay. I mean, kind of like third rotation starter guy, but he didn't become Max Scherzer yet. So and Jordan Zimmermann, had 1 year and then Tommy John surgery. So that's kind of like a non-starter for me. So I wanted to start there. And if you look since 2010 and on, and you sort by really any number that matters at all, Steven Strasburg's at the top. He's at the top for FIP, fielding independent pitching. He's at the top for ERA, if you like more standard statistics. He's at the top for strikeout rate. He's at the top. Has among the lowest strikeout to walk ratios. So yes, he does walk a couple more guys, but he strikes out so many guys that it doesn't end up making all that much of a difference. And then you compare him during that same period to the best pitchers in all of baseball, not the NL, not just the AL, but during that time, the best pitchers in baseball. And I'm just going to kind of rerun down my argument really quick, and that's to say that pitchers with a lower FIP than Steven Strasburg since then, Clayton Kershaw, Cliff Lee, Adam Wainwright. End of list. It's a pretty good list.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Pitchers with better strikeout rates since then, Yu Darvish. End of list. I mean, it's a ridiculous list of people. Pitchers with better strikeout to walk ratio, Cliff Lee, Chris Sale, Roy Halladay. And then pitchers with lower ERA with a minimum of 500 innings pitched, because there were some relievers and guys that only threw 1 year in there, so I kind of wanted to take those out of there. But it was Clayton Kershaw, Johnny Cueto, Felix Hernandez, Chris Sale, Adam Wainwright, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, Jared Weaver. Jared Weaver, that's weird to me. But the rest of them all make sense.
Best number 2 pitcher ever.
Yes, seriously. But these guys are. This guy is really good, and I think that the ridiculous level of hype that he had coming into the league has really kind of hurt him.
Oh, no question, no question.
He just gets this focus that it's expected that because of his debut, he's going to pitch 7 innings and strike out 14 guys and give up 3 hits every single game.
Yep.
And there are games where he kind of does that, which is ridiculous anyway. And so many people, he's mentally weak. He can't. He's terrible in the first and second inning. It takes him too long to get into games. He's not the guy that I would trust in a 1-game playoff situation. And I truly disagree with every statement that was made. I've had several people after I wrote this. My dad. I've had many friends, my brother, lots of text messages from people that were like, so my question is, who would you start if it was Game 7 of the World Series or it was a 1-game playoff? And my answer is, and I say it, Steven Strasburg or Max Scherzer, and either one, I just don't care. It's kind of like it's not even 1 and 1A. I don't even know how to say it. They're both just ridiculously good. And I know that a lot of people would be aghast that I would not consider Jordan Zimmermann in that list. And the reason that I do not consider Jordan Zimmermann in that list is because Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg miss a lot of bats. And Jordan Zimmermann doesn't miss a whole lot of bats. And when you have stuff like Steven Strasburg has and that Max Scherzer has, you trust that in a 1-game playoff because they're going to miss more bats than Jordan Zimmermann is. And if Jordan Zimmermann's a little bit off, then it's going to be a bad day for him. And that's why I make that argument. But that's why I have no problem putting Steven Strasburg on that list. I truly believe that he is the best pitcher on the team, but I'm not saying that it's like by this wide margin. There are a lot of really good pitchers on this team.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's my lots and lots of words in about 4 minutes talking quickly argument for Steven Strasburg. Who are you going to argue for?
Well, let me go into my little spiel. I went into the week and I said, "Oh, no question, it's going to be Steven Strasburg," and there's really nothing anyone can do to convince me. And
Yeah.
I should note that I did not write anyone's piece, which is a really smart decision on Will Yoder's part to not have me do that.
But it also makes you kind of a neutral arbiter.
Yeah. So I went into the week once I found out what the series was going to be, and I was like, it's Strasburg, and I don't even know, like, yeah, everyone's great, but I don't even know why this is a discussion. I was convinced, and I was convinced that the best pitcher in the Nationals rotation is Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
It's Max Scherzer, and I was just as shocked there. Yeah, I know you went through for your Strasburg, and you said, well, since Strasburg's come in, he's been this and this and this. But when you were explaining it just now, you also said that these pitchers weren't themselves when he first came in the league or right before he came in the league. So in the last 3 years, Max Scherzer is in the top 3 in baseball in pitching WAR, strikeouts per 9, strikeout to walk ratio, and wins. Top 3 in all of baseball.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that no other Nationals pitcher was in the top 10 in any of those categories, based on reading Will's piece on this. And we're also talking about a pitcher who had one of the worst defenses in baseball behind him. He's not that much of a ground ball pitcher, but it does make a huge difference when you have a quality defense playing behind you that you feel like you can make mistakes. And the thing is, Max Scherzer couldn't make mistakes before. Right. Because ground balls are going to go through the infield. They're not going to be gobbled up at all. Right. Yet still, his numbers were fantastic. Won a Cy Young Award, and he is coming from, once again, American League to a National League in a down division. The Braves lost players, a lot of players. The Mets, meh. The Marlins, meh. It's a down division. The Phillies are just a joke. So, steamer projections for Max Scherzer for this year, 10.45 strikeouts per 9. I dare say there's probably not many relievers that are even going to be that high outside of, like, Craig Kimbrell. 2.91 ERA and a 2.96 FIP. I think that Max Scherzer, just based on what he's done, where he's coming, I think he's the Nationals' best pitcher coming into the year. And, number one, how did I even forget this? Dude has 2 different color eyes.
Yeah, that's the game changer.
That is a game changer. There has to be a bobblehead, right? With 2 different color eyes. It has to happen.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, we've got 7 years. So
yeah. So Max Scherzer, I think, I knew he was good. I didn't know he was this good.
Well, I think that's going to be the most interesting thing going into the 2015 season. I think there are going to be a lot of Nationals fans who are watching Max Scherzer pitch that are going to go, wow, this guy's better than I thought he was. Because, I mean, I was saying I have probably seen Max Scherzer pitch in a non-playoff game like maybe a handful of times ever.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even if I'm watching a game after I'm watching a Nationals game, I'm typically turning on a West Coast game. I'm not turning on the end of a Detroit Tigers game. And it was so long ago that he was in Arizona that I just didn't ever really watch him.
Yeah.
So I will be, I went and watched clips and whatever, but I will be very interested to see what he looks like when we get to watch him pitch, 33 starts a season.
Yeah, he is going to strike out a lot of hitters.
A lot. Yeah.
The NL East, as it is a strikeout-heavy division
Right.
with the Phillies and the Braves, although the Braves are a much different team without Gaddis and Hayward there.
Right.
So
And no
that's
Ugla as well. So
right. So, but he's still going to strike out a ton of batters, and it's gonna be fun seeing 7 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts, kind of like you were just talking about with Strasburg. But this is a guy who over the last 3 years has been a top 3 pitcher in all of baseball, not just you know more potential. It's actualized,
right.
and
Yeah.
I think that's why Max Scherzer is the number one on that list.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against those points, and that's the thing that's the most interesting about this is that it's hard to make a wrong argument.
Yeah.
And there's so much talent. It's just hard to make a bad or a wrong argument.
Yeah, I mean, I could be persuaded on every single one of those players. So
Well, and that's the thing. My personal favorite post was Will's post on Doug Fister. He was just like, you know why Doug Fister's the best? Because he's friggin' awesome.
yeah, that's who I think had the most persuasive.
Yeah, it was just like it was the least. There were like no stats in it. It was just like because he's awesome. Because Doug Fister got hit in the head during a playoff game and got up and pitched, and he's awesome, and he's just awesome.
Yeah, I love that piece. I thought for claiming to not really use stats, he used stats pretty effectively.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a pitcher who's what do you say? He sits at 87 miles an hour, breaking stuff at 80.
Right.
Like when I could actually throw a baseball and my hand wasn't in a million pieces, I could probably hit 80.
No, I couldn't, but good for you.
Yeah, I could probably hit 80 if I was really ramping it up.
Right.
But like he's a major league pitcher.
Right. And that doesn't speak to what he can do.
And he's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's great about both Fister and Jordan Zimmerman is they work so quickly.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's really you're right. Both of those guys, that's kind of their claims to fame is they just ball till the rubber go. Ball till the rubber go. I mean they do not wait. They're not sitting and shaking people off and stepping off the rubber and whatever. They get the ball and they throw it. And that's that's what makes it so much fun to watch those guys pitch. It's not I mean, I guess it is a mind game because mind game is I'm just going to pitch it now, and
that's right.
You better be ready for it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's fun. So in terms of best argument, so I'm going to have you say who made the best argument in your mind, but I'm going to make the caveat before you do that I am not going to pick myself.
That's fine.
Because that just would be a dick move.
Well, I think mine's based on I went in saying this is going to be Strasburg, and I was convinced that it's Max Scherzer, so I'd say that was the best argument in my mind. I mean, yours was fantastic on Steven Strasburg, but we're talking that just confirmed what I already knew.
Right, exactly, and I kind of figured you'd pick that because if it changed your mind, then it was well written.
Yeah.
So, and for mine, I'm picking the same piece. I thought that I thought that it really did a great job of pulling together the argument in a way that was not stat heavy, but really was like, yeah, this guy's really a good pitcher, and he's probably better than you think, and that's going to make it even more fun.
Yep.
And that's what I really
exactly
enjoyed
what it was. That was the intent, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. So, Will Yoder, you are the winner of the first ever Pick the Best Nats Starter argument piece situation.
It's a thing.
You like that title? That's the title.
It's a thing.
Argument piece situation.
Argument piece situation. Yep.
So we'll move away from that because we actually talked more about relief pitchers than I expected because it was fun.
Yeah.
But I know you want to talk about some prospects, so
we've
spend 5 minutes talking about that.
We've got. Well, I think we can just lump this in the minutia portion.
Okay. Sure.
So your prospect lists are starting to trickle out here and there. I'm not paying ESPN a dime to be an insider, so I couldn't tell you what Keith Law says, but you should all go give the Nats GM show a listen.
Yeah, good call.
Ryan just interviewed Keith Law, about a 20-minute interview, so it's not going to take up too much of your time. And say what you will about Keith Law and his, personality and his arrogance. Dude knows what he's talking about when it comes to prospects.
Yeah.
So it's a good listen. Give it a go. But Jonathan Mayo just released his list last week, and the Nationals have 3/4 pitchers on that list, which is really awesome. The number one pitcher in all of prospect land is Lucas Giolito, who the Nationals took a big chance, huge chance, a couple years ago in the draft, take a pitcher with arm injury history, and it turns out so far the gamble has paid off in shades.
And he's still so young.
He's so young, but he's tall. He's got a frickin' hammer. He's got gas. Prone to his. The only thing wrong with him right now is that he leaves his fastball up a little bit. But if he pitches kind of like he did last year, when he's in high A this year, like he could have an ERA in the ones.
Oh yeah,
in high A as like a baby.
Well, I really thought that Lucas Giolito would be in Harrisburg this year, to be totally honest with you. So when I heard that he was going to be in Potomac, I was so happy because I'm going to go and watch all.
Oh, I'm going to go. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's get a Nats going to see Lucas Giolito be amazing thing.
Yes, I'm on board. But what also makes it awesome is Lucas Giolito will turn 20 this coming July.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is his age 19 season.
He's so young. So even if it doesn't all turn out sunshine and roses in the next couple of years, he could have 3 crappy years and still turn out fine because he'll be like 24 when he hits the major league level.
And the great thing is, like, he honestly, no matter what his performance is, I'm pretty sure he's going to stay at high A for probably the whole season, I would think.
I could see a situation where if it's just embarrassing that he gets called up to Harrisburg this year, I can see that happening.
But we're still talking. He could be 21 and get a September call up.
Exactly, and this
next
is the
season.
thing. He is he is still so young that it really would not surprise me if Mike Rizzo went the Steven Strasburg back from Tommy John surgery route, where he's like, you're doing awesome, and we'd love to see you at the next level, but why?
Yep.
There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to rush the development. There's things you could still learn at the minor league level. Need to work on that changeup a little bit.
Work on the change, and he's got a 2-seam fastball that he hasn't broken out at all because he hasn't needed it.
And they kind of, wasn't it they kind of wouldn't let him?
Well, you won't let him because you don't want, when you've got gas like he does on the 4-seamer,
right?
You don't, if you throw a fastball that's more 94, 95, you will, it's called speeding up the bats.
Right.
You don't want to speed up the hitter's bats because they probably haven't seen too many pitchers that can control upper 90s.
Yeah, right.
Control upper 90s, not throw it.
You see plenty of upper 90s in low A. It's just nobody can control it.
Right. So, timing it is very difficult. But they're used to seeing more control with the low to mid 90s, and you don't want to throw that 2-seamer when they're used to seeing it, and they can easily do that. But if you can mix it in, that's a different story. So,
right.
So that'll be something to keep an eye out from him. But he is on Jonathan Mayo's list as number 6 overall.
That's crazy high.
Which is just beautiful.
For a 19-year-old.
And the wonderful thing for the Nationals is they had Michael Taylor come in on this list, number 42.
That's awesome.
Do you know where he was last year?
Not appearing?
Not on the list.
Yeah.
Not on the list. And he came in at number 42.
That's a jump-ish.
Yeah, that's great. And like we talked about last week, there's a good chance that he might be going north with the team come opening day, depending on Jason Worth's status.
Yeah, that's what it depends on, right? It's the Jason Worth situation.
Yeah, but he's still young.
I don't know. Jason Worth's getting some done in the yard in Fairfax City, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, he is. Looks good.
Sorry.
And then AJ Cole coming in at number 52, which going out on a limb here saying you're going to see AJ Cole in September.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if we didn't see AJ Cole at some point this year, even if it's as a September call-up, right?
It's going to be a September call-up, and in all reality, I could see him being the go back to the early Cardinals, like 2000s, like the Chris Carpenter coming in and being just your disgusting reliever.
Right.
In the postseason. I mean, there's a chance that could happen with AJ Cole this season.
Well, I feel like it's so interesting. We've been hearing AJ Cole's name for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
It just feels like he's been in the organization forever. He's
Right.
only 23.
Yep.
So I actually just looked that up. I was thinking, well, it seems like it's about time that he starts making an appearance, but he turned 23 years old in January. So, I mean, even if he makes an appearance in September, it'll be at age 23, or if it doesn't happen, then he joins the team until 2016. He'll still be 24 years old.
Right.
That's really young.
But I really think the Nationals are going to want him to get some whatever big league experience possible at the tail end of this season.
Right.
Because with the upcoming off season, with Jordan Zimmerman, and you don't really know what's going to happen with moves.
With Zimmerman and Fister probably not coming back,
right.
There's a pretty decent chance AJ Cole's in the starting rotation.
You could have Tanner Roark and AJ Cole just slide right into those positions.
But you're right. You want to get AJ Cole that experience rather than just throwing him in the number 5 spot and saying good luck if you can afford to do it.
Exactly.
And you never know. Maybe you get AJ Cole up and he's pitching some relief in September, and then you decide if the Nationals are doing as well as people expect them to, you give a guy or two who's thrown a lot of innings a game or two, a game off at the end of the year, and you have AJ Cole get a spot start and see what happens.
Especially if the Nationals are up 17 games again.
Yeah, can we talk about that for like 2 seconds? And
then just take a little aside. We were
a
talking
little
about
aside,
this in
and
the
then we really
car
got
on
to
the way
wrap up
to basketball. Yeah, we were talking about it in the car on the way to basketball. The Nationals won the division by 17 games last year, and I don't think people talk about that enough. 17 games. The Nationals won 96 games. The Braves didn't even get to 500.
Yeah, they won 78 games, and the Braves tied with the Mets.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. I just happened to be looking at that on Saturday, and I was like, I completely forgot that was a thing.
Yeah. So, when you speak of 2014, speak well.
Yeah, it was a disappointing playoffs, but it was one hell of a year.
It really was. Getting back real quick to the prospect list, soon-to-be Nationals prospect Trey Turner came in at number 62 on the list, which is just great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Essentially, the Nationals have 4 players on Jonathan Mayo's top 100, which would make them one of maybe 2 teams in baseball with that many players. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
But we all know the ambiguous, weird situation that he faces for the next couple months.
Right.
You really hope something happens in baseball with that.
Get him in the organization.
You really hope there's something, that logic can prevail and he can actually be with the club he's going to be with instead of this, oh, you're a Padre.
Ish.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
We don't care about you because you're not going to be here in 3 months. So
right.
Really hope something happens with that. But that would put the Nationals at 4 prospects in the top 2/3 of the top 100. So
yeah,
that's good for a team that won 96 games last year and won their division by 17 games.
Yeah, to be as good as the Nationals have been for so many years and still have so many high-level prospects is insane. Usually you get high-level prospect because you draft high because you're terrible.
Right. I mean, Keith Law's number 9 system. If you're in the top third in prospect rankings and you're a World Series favorite,
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. And
Let's
then-
talk. Let's talk spring training venue stuff next podcast when there's actually people reporting to spring training.
I really like that idea.
We'll save it since we're over on time.
Okay, let's do it. Can I just say Ichiro's going to look really weird in Marlins colors?
It's gonna be so colorful. It's gonna be
so
weird.
weird.
Him in that orange jersey is gonna be bizarre, man.
It's so strange.
Oh God.
So, yeah.
Cool. Good podcast.
Great podcast.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to episode 90 of Now.
Oh, 90.
I know.
What are we doing? Are we doing a spring training lead-in thing this year?
Yeah, I mean, we'll do something. We'll either do something the week leading into spring training when pitchers and catchers reports, or we'll do it like after that first week when there's something to report. So what's like in that range is probably when you'll hear from us next.
Okay. Get ready for pitchers and catchers reporting, which is the most boring of milestone days ever.
Like it's super exciting because it's like a thing,
Right.
but nothing happens.
Like you see a picture of a pitcher carrying a bag.
I'm mostly excited for Bad Spring Training Picks Twitter account to come back.
Oh, and I'm really excited for visa issues. I want to see who has visa issues.
Who's the person that couldn't figure out their visa issues in 6 months of off season?
Because that's always a thing. So these are things these are my spring training prop bets here.
But you know what? It's baseball information, and I will take it.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We will catch you guys around the beginning of spring training.
All right.